Oh yeah, baby. Board games.
Locked in the bunker, shadow shake. One man clapping secrets awake. Board games living, dice they break. Echoes pound and hearts they quake. In the bunker, board games rolling. One man clapping, stories growing. Hard rock thunder, speakers blowing. Clapping loud beyond the...
Welcome to the sound of one man clapping. I am the one man coming to you direct from the bunker. Forgive me, OMC crew, for it has been 3 weeks since my last confession. What's been going on? I've written that down all as one word. What's been going on? Very gangster. Well, there's been a number of holidays in Australia. We had Anzac Day, for those of you that aren't down in this neck of the woods. That is the Australian New Zealand Army Corps. It's a celebration of all of those that went to war, primarily in World War One. But it's like the Australian version of Remembrance Day. And that is it's a important day. It's a somber day. It's an important one to me personally for familial reasons. And we went and spent that with the in-laws. And we were just down there again this weekend because this weekend, today, in fact, in Australia, is Mother's Day. Happy board games to all the moms, and hot mummies out there. We love you all very much, and I hope you get your board game on. It is also the Peanuts' birthday in a few sleeps, so it is all shenanigans all the time, and work has been absolutely fisting me of late. It's been consensual, it's things I volunteered to do, and there were important things in my job. But oh man, it's been a hot minute. So I am here. Little update, I just want to have a little one-on-one with the OMC crew, guys. It's not just one man clapping. It's literally one man recording, one man editing, one man publishing. And while it's not a big deal. To bring you an hour, it's about 4 hours of my life. And that's not to say you guys aren't worth it. And I don't get a lot out of it. I really do. But I'm looking for some new balance, whether that means recording after work midweek sometimes or, maybe doing fortnightly. Granted, fortnightly would be better than it has been the last 3 weeks for you. So just watch this space. I'm trying to find a new balance. I promised myself that I would start this lovely little channel and I would do it so long as it didn't feel like a chore. And that it's not that it feels like a chore, but it's now starting to, it's just, if I've got a choice of, well, do I record an episode or do I play a board game? Do I record an episode, do I play a board game? Well, when you're board game poor, my last 3 weeks, maybe it's just the dry spell, it's my board game world is it's in need of a little lube over the last 3 weeks. So maybe I'm just feeling a bit spicy over that. I'm not going anywhere. I will be here in whatever fashion that is, but it just might change a little bit. Big thanks, to Super Trooper for doing all the heavy lifting on our Facebook page over the last sort of 3 or 4 months. Really, really grateful and appreciative. You'll see posts on there. They're either tagged with an H for Hamas or an ST for Super Trooper, so you know who you're talking to, but he's been really doing all the heavy lifting there. And with that in mind, I gotta say, I'm freaking tired today, man. It has been a week. My week last week, Tuesday to Friday, it was a bit grueling. And so after 3 weeks, I'm going to roll it a little differently today. You would have seen that in the title if you looked at the title beforehand. But today, there's no FOMO mofo. There's no games that were because, spoiler alert, there weren't that many. We did get a 13-hour session of Aeon Trespass, but that's, This week, I want to do OMC's very first game spotlight. This is not a review. I don't do reviews. You guys know that. This is not a review channel. I don't do reviews. But instead, I want to talk about one specific game in detail. Okay, it might get a bit review-y, but that's not what I'm here for. So without further ado, this week, I want to talk in detail about Lands of Evershade. There won't be any overt spoilers in this, but if you want to know nothing, then boop, shut it off. I'll talk to you next week, okay? If there is anything that even nudges into the sideways adjacent realm of spoiler stuff, I will warn you, okay? But that's not what this is about. But I want to talk about this game in detail. So Awaken Realms, unless this is your first podcast ever and you've never played a board game, you know Awaken Realms, they're known for huge productions. Stalker, Grim Coven, the Nemesis trilogy. Oh my god, how many bazillions did the Nemesis trilogy raise? This War of Mine, along with all the Big Bang releases, like the re-releases of Castle of Burgundy, Puerto Rico, Agricola. They're doing all that, the refresh, re-release. I have the Castles of Burgundy. It's wonderful. Project L has Puerto Rico. It's wonderful. None of us have backed Agricola, but Concordia looks like it's going to be in our game group. Hopefully that's got the rubber stamp of approval at this stage from everybody. So Awaken Realms, no holds barred. Let's not mess around. They do exceptional work. They only do top shelf. That's what they do. They do top shelf. And yes, you pay for it. You pay for it. But I'll tell you what, you get what you pay for. And recently, Wave 1 just delivered for Lands of Evershade to my door. Wave 2 will be towards the end of the year. But Wave 1, to be honest, it's about 85% of the campaign. Wave 2 is really just, I think it's more adventures. It's more modules for play. I'm pretty sure that's all that's coming in Wave 2 from the looks of it. Because the Wave 1 box that arrived at my door, it was delivered standing on end, and it was as tall as the Peanut. Now the Peanut she might only be 11, but she is tall for her age, and it was absolutely monstrous. It was bigger than the box that Aeon Trespass came in. It was the single biggest box that's ever come to my door. So what's in it? Well, you've got the Lands of Evershade core box, which is probably, if you've ever done anything like ISS Vanguard or Tainted Grail, any of those other big titles, I can see the ISS Vanguard box on my shelf. I think the Lands of Evershade box is probably 50% bigger than the OG ISS Vanguard, and that was the Kickstarter version. It's a big box. It fits in a Calyx, lying down or standing up, but it would be half a Calyx cell. Easily. It's half a Calyx cell for the line. That's the core box. Now, alongside the core box, there is the box of the creatures. It's called Creatures of Evershade. So it's all the monsters and ookie-bookies that you come in contact with. Humanoids that you come in contact with through the game so far, as I've seen, are standees. They've got standees for the humanoids, but the creatures are all 3D sculpts. And I did take the Sundrop version, which is basically they're done in almost a sepia paint and they're ink washed. And can I say, Awaken Realms Sundrop tech has come forward by leaps and bounds. I mean, I can even look back to even just like Tainted Grail, which wasn't that many years ago. And the spraying and the ink wash, it's quite clumpy in spots and whatever, The wash, the Sundrop on the Awaken Realms minis, it is, if you're not going to paint, I'll tell you what, Sundrop isn't just a decent compromise. It is a wonderful finish because these minis have character and depth and detail that you shouldn't be able to get in a mini like this. And so you've got the creatures box. On top of that, there are 4, they're like little slimline boxes. Each one of them has a standalone adventure because Lands of Evershade is basically a core system. It's a core set. And then you need the adventures to play on top of that. So in the box, you've got the player's handbook, which we're going to talk about, the rule book. You've got all of the tokens to play the game, all the dice, all the bits and pieces. And if you took the deluxe upgrades, which was acrylic bits, metal coins, all the usual stuff, what's wonderful is they all fit in the OG box. Tainted Grail, they didn't. You had to keep the separate little box that they came in to store them in. In Lands of Evershade, all the upgrade pieces, they fit in the OG box. The metal coins, the boon tokens, the terror tokens, all of that stuff. It all fits in there, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. In the core box, you've got this excellent save system. It's basically a hard plastic clamshell that goes around your double-layered player board, holds all the tokens in place. So when you're done with all the tokens and you want to pack it away, you basically clamp it in this little clamshell, and it holds everything, your experience levels, all your tokens, and it doesn't move. And it is just top shelf, absolute top shelf. On top of that, I did get the sleeve vault. I am a whore for sleeves for games like this. And so, as per usual for Awaken Realms, they publish out a separate box with all these different sections and dividers in it, and all the sleeves come back to the box. I have sleeved everything for the core box, all the main cards, all the items. I've sleeved all 3 adventures. They all fit in this core box. I believe, if I count right, there's 3 or maybe 4 more adventures coming at the end of the year. There's room in this core box of sleeves for those. I don't know what I'm going to do when they release more content, because you can bet your ass they are going to release more adventures for this. But all sleeved, it is 1, 2, 3. It's at least 6 or 7 different adventures, start to finish, that are going into this sleeve box, and it will all fit. And the sleeves are all 100 microns. I mean, The production for Lands of Evershade. Now, I have a number of Awaken Realms products. You know, I have Ice Vanguard. I have Tainted Grail. Pretty sure Tainted Grail was Awaken Realms. I have Castles of Burgundy. I have a couple more. This is by far the most outstanding production quality that I've seen. The metal coins have this gorgeous aging ink wash on them. They look like they've spent 40 years in someone's little pouch. They're not sparkly. They look so good. The player boards are double layered. Actually, I think they're triple layered. They're triple layered player boards, and they've all got little cutouts in, not just cutouts and receptacles for you to put your tiles into, but there's a secondary cutout that you can put your finger in that pops the tile up so that you're not digging them out with your fingernail. If you want, the production has been faultless, absolutely faultless, top to bottom. Literally everything I've pulled out of the box is an 11 out of 10. So that's what came with Wave 1. Huge box of stuff. And to be honest, I think it's all going to fit. It will almost all fit in one calyx, I reckon. It's the card vault that might come undone. But I haven't yet tried to put it away because I punched it, sorted it, got it all done, and it's been on the table ever since. I haven't yet put it away. So that's what's in the box. It is. I can't remember what I paid for it. I don't even care at this point. Right? This is one of those campaigns that came to the door. I've opened it up, and whatever I paid for it, it is absolutely worth that. I can just see. Yeah, I know I'm gushing. I'm fangirling a little bit, so my apologies. I'm not actually sorry. That's total bullshit. Actually, well, let's get some refreshment. Oh, love that sound. Is it a Pepsi? Is it a nice cold beer? Oh, you'll never know. So what happens with Lands of Evershade? Well, the first thing you have to do is decide who you want to be, because Lands of Evershade it's essentially an RPG. It's an adventure-style RPG. And I played D&D, I played Shadowrun, I played RPGs growing up, and I was a big fan. I can tell you this is the closest thing in a board game that I've ever seen to a true RPG kind of setup. So the first thing you do is you get the player handbook out. The player handbook's, 214 pages or something. It's hardcover. It's got a faux leather cover. And the thing about the faux leather cover is one of those faux leathers that as soon as you touch it, it marks. And you might go, oh, that's crap. I love that, and I'll tell you why. Because after playing Lands of Evershade for a year or two, the book's going to look like it's been sitting in a library and passed around and scuffed up. It's one of those faux leathers that if you ran your fingernail across it, you leave a great big line across it that you can't buff out. I see that as a selling feature, not a flaw. I really like that because this book is going to have a lovely patina. It's going to change color from the oils in your fingers, and it's going to just have that oof, that oof. And when you open it up, it is full color start to finish. And you don't, when you're playing Lands of Evershade, you don't touch the manual yet. You sit around the table and you open up this player manual. So here I am. I've got the player handbook in my hand. You open it up. It starts off, it's got a Tolkien-style map at the front of the world. Lovely little table of contents that has everything. And then it's got an introduction, which basically talks to you about what you're going to be doing with this book. Very simple. It's a half a page. You flip the page, and then you get one page of background story. That's it. It's enough. It's not a novel. You don't have to sit there reading for half an hour. You get this lovely painting on the left side of the page. And on the right side, it says Chapter 1, The Lands of Evershade. And it gives you one page of history. Because you come across a lot of things in the narrative of this, and they use terms, and you go, well, what the fuck is that? And you look at each other and go, what's the bonding? What the hell's the bonding? But it's talking about the bonding. There's no spoilers in this. It's a word, right? You talk about the bonding. You go, what the hell's the bonding? And it gets referenced, and it's in the narrative. And then 2 hours later, it's revealed what's happening. And that little bit of tease is wonderful. So you got one page of narrative, because they want you to experience this as it is. And then it's Chapter 2. Chapter 1 is one page. It's one page of background narrative. Gorgeous. Chapter 2. And it starts off hitting you just right. It says, important information. Character creation offers many choices and paths that may take up to an hour for each player. Holy shitballs. This is before you've started the game. And let me tell you, this is not a chore. Character creation is a joy in Lands of Evershade. And so it gives you the option to go, hey, we've got 6 characters. If you can't be fucked and you're not interested in this, here's a character. And it's ready-made, ready to go, and whoof, off you go. But if you want to do it yourself, right? If you want to do it yourself, you grab your player board, because you don't have a great big sheet of paper. You've got an interactive board that holds everything. And you start off, and the first thing you're going to do is choose your race. And there are 8 unique races. Now, they ostensibly overlay with some very traditional D&D tropes. You know, you've got dwarves, you've got elves, you've got a fairy descendant, you've got an orc, or they really do overlay a lot with some very standard tropes, and I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with that. There are a couple of really interesting things in there. There's a race called a blank, which basically is just that. They are a blank slate. And what they do narratively is they embed themselves. They kind of pop out of the shade, which is, we don't know what the shade is yet. We just started playing. We're learning about Lands of Evershade, but they kind of pop out of the, or is it the fade? They pop out of the fade, and they're born from the fade. And they are this like milk white with glowing lines, almost very alien-esque. And what happens is they embed themselves with a local tribe, and they take on the characteristics of where they are. And they're unusual and unknowable. And then you've got Algrims, which are basically a half-breed between elves and trolls. You have interesting races. You have humans. They've even managed to make the humans seem interesting. And they all have different starting stats, right? As typical. So when it says may take an hour per player, that hour is schmonkerl, start to finish. It is a tasty treat. It is a delicacy to be savored. And that hour, I think, what I did was I kind of pre-selected mine because I didn't want the peanut to have to sit through an hour of listening to me make choices. So I kind of went through, but I was flexible in that if she wanted to be an alpha, I wasn't going to be an alpha. If she wanted to be a failing, I wanted her to have the first choice. So you pick your race, and your race comes with stats. After your race, you choose your profession and path. This, again, some of it follows very knowable tropes: druids, bards, barbarians, scoundrels, paladins, mages. There's some really different ones. There's a life shaper, which is a path which manipulates the living world, and there's kind of a necromantic slant for one of those, because each of these has 3 sub choices you have to make. So you can be a bard, but within the bard class, you can be an entertainer or a trickster or a lore keeper. And then after that, you get to pick, I think you can choose companions. So they're like little helpers. They're like followers if you've ever played Neverwinter Nights or any of those sorts of D&D-esque stuff. Neverwinter Nights, that's showing my age. Jeez. Baldur's Gate probably be more knowable. But in there, you also have pets. So, of course, the Peanut and I chose pets, because who doesn't want a fucking pet when you're trolling and tra-la-laing through the countryside? And after that, you also choose... After that, you get to also choose your origin story. Where'd you come from? And each of these adds another small layer onto your character, and each of it's represented in your player board with these tokens that slot down the left-hand side. So it starts with your race, then your profession and your origin story. And each of them, as you're going through the book, there's a little narrative, right? So if you are a barbarian and you choose the barbarian, there are 3 subsets. It will give you a little narrative of what your training was like, what your life was like, what you were doing. And so in choosing your character, I encourage the Peanut to just go, hey, what sounds nicer, rather than reading everything in detail. And there were some moments where she's like, no, I need to know. I cannot just choose what I'm going to do. I need to know a little bit. But there's a lot in there. And it's a joyous birthing of this character that you become very attached to, if I'm being quite honest. But each thing you choose generates keywords which sit in your board. So, for example, the Peanut is an elf, which is the elf in this. And the elf generates 2 keywords. One is Eldar and one is subterranean, because the elf race in Lands of Evershade, they live underground. And so as you're going through the narratives, it will pause and say, hey, do you happen to have subterranean as a keyword on the table? And as long as anyone has it, well, that's not quite true. Sometimes it will initiate a bit of narrative that everyone gets to, and sometimes it will say, hand the book to the person with the subterranean keyword, and only they get to know, because it's like a flashback to their childhood, or it's something they have an aha moment. It's like rolling for perception in D&D. You get a little nugget, and sometimes that nugget's shared, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes the narrative will say, don't share this. Sometimes the narrative will say, you can share this if you want, or you can lie about it. It encourages you to make stuff up, to make it more interesting. And so everything you layer on in your character gives you keywords. The keywords could be things like lore or magician, or there are dozens and dozens and dozens. I don't even know. There could be hundreds. We've only just started exploring this. And then as you go along, and this is spoiler adjacent, guys. If you don't want to hear this, go forward another 2 minutes. This is spoiler adjacent. It's not spoilerish. But at a point in the initial storyline, not right away before character creation, but as in the initial storyline, you gain a personal secret. It's something that could be something you're ashamed of. It could be something that you've spent your life investigating. It becomes your little side quest. And it's just fucking delightful. So, and if you like going random, all of the character creation points have a die table. So if you're like, hey, I don't know what I want to do, you roll your D20 or D12. I think there's 12s you roll in this game. You roll your 12, and it'll say, hey, guess what? You're a Moonshield Paladin. You go, okay, great. And so if you don't want to sit and pore over it, you can randomly generate one as well, which I think is a blast. And then you start. You've got your character. You've got your starting. In your character, you have 4 key stats: strength, agility, intelligence, and charisma. And these are really important in the game. And typically most races, there's some races that start with nice even stats across the board, and there's some that are very min-maxed. You have experience that you can gain, and then you have a board with inventory slots because your inventory is very deeply limited, and you get, these lovely little coins. And once you're all set up and you're all ready to go, and you've got your companions and or your pets, you're off. You're off to start. And so you start playing. Now, you can, I would say, if you spent 15 or 20 minutes with the rule book just learning the basics of how to do a die check, you could probably get started right away. The rule book is 27 pages. Now, the gameplay you get out of this feels like a 90-page rule book, but it is 27 pages. And then there's a dozen or so pages of specific examples. But really, the rule book is 27 pages, and it is laid out in an abundantly clear way. Everything is you've got chapters in the rulebook. So if you're looking for how do I reconcile a battle round, how do I do a check, what happens if we disagree, it's all there, and it is really, really clear. The rulebook, if I haven't been clear enough, is fantastic. I picked this up and set it up on the table, and the Peanut was away at Girl Guide Camp, and I started playing because I wanted to learn the game. And I pulled the starting adventure out, and the adventures are all numbered. So they've got a number on the side which has to do with their difficulty. So you can technically start straight into a level 3 difficulty. There's instructions on how to level up your character to do so. But this is the starting, like, hey, you've never seen Lands of Evershade before. Here's the starting one. It's 3 chapters. And I played chapter 1. And I got to the end of chapter 1, and I looked up, and I was ready to get into chapter 2. And because it was just one of those things that you fall into, and you just don't realize the time is passing, because I was sucked right in, and it was all I could do not to just keep playing. And I thought, no, the Peanut's going to be home in 2 hours. This was on Sunday last week. And I stripped it. I put everything back to just, like, as in it's just out of the box. And I thought, no, when the Peanut gets here, we'll do character creation. We'll do it together. I haven't, since doing chapter 1, and there were 1 or 2 moments of flicking back and forth and whatever else, I have not looked at the rule book. I have not had to look at the rule book. What Awakened Realms has done with Lands of Evershade is created a living, breathing experience that sucks you into this vortex. But the way it plays is so intuitive that when, sometimes you're doing dice checks in games, like Isis Vanguard Isis Vanguard was a great game, but it's basically dice check the game, right? That's all it is. The dice checks in Lands of Evershade are intuitive, they're important, and they're tense. So, let me be clear. I didn't have to look at the rule book. The Peanut and I have since, and I'm going to circle back to this. We've played Chapter 1, Chapter 2. Chapter 3 is laid out on the table. We're about to start Chapter 3, and so that's the third part of the first adventure. Now, I want to say Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 collectively took us 4 hours. Now, when you start a chapter, it tells you, it'll say this chapter takes between 1 and 3 hours. Is everyone happy to continue? I think Chapter 1 and 2 took us about 4 hours. And Chapter 3 has said this could take between 1 and 3 hours. So ostensibly, and I guess it depends on which decisions you make as to how quickly you might move through or how fast you move through. Like, there was no spoilers, but one of the chapters involved some cross-country travel. We were under time pressures. Excuse me. And I believe those time pressures were because of the choices we made in previous acts. And so I think this could have been a longer game. But it looks to me like we will have played the whole adventure in about 6 or 7 hours. And let me tell you, I love campaign games. I'm playing Aeon Trespass Odyssey, and we got to be at least 200 hours into Aeon Trespass Odyssey. With the end is nowhere inside. The end is forget it. And I absolutely adore it. But the fact that this can come out, and maybe over the course of a week of after school gaming, whatever the case is, we could knock over a whole adventure, a whole experience. That is spectacular. And no, granted, we've got level 2 and level 3 adventure to get to, and there may be brand new rules and brand new things that layer on there. We may be going back to the rule book. I've read the whole rule book. There's nothing missing from the rule book. I haven't looked at anything that's in the other boxes other than I've pulled the cards out and sleeved them. But the fact that I've not had to look at the rule book is spectacular. So, we did a hard reset. The Peanut and I created characters. She is an elf Moonshield Paladin whose background was grew up the daughter of warriors. So she grew up on the battlefield. And she is innately good to the core. She's good. Whereas I am playing a Failing, which is this sprightly fairy class. They only live 20 years, so they live for today. They don't really think about the future. They don't really plan. They don't do much. And my particular character was raised in the circus and is light-fingered as fuck. And has some questionable morals. And so the Peanuts character really wants to do the right thing, and mine just really wants shiny stuff. And it's created some wonderful table talk. Let me tell you, there was one moment we were playing, and we were talking about choices and I just said, yeah, but I just want the shiny stuff. And she said, for a crappy little thief, you really don't have a lot of gold. You'd think you'd be better at it if you're this obsessed with it. And it was so perfectly timed, and it was so wonderful, and it stopped me in my tracks. So it's the closest thing I've ever been able to play to feeling like a D&D game. That aside, let's talk about the game itself, because we're coming up on half an hour, and otherwise this is going to be longer than my normal episodes, and you're going to be going, Lands of Evershade, I've had so much of this, I'm done. We did a hard reset, we start again. So how does the game play? Well, you've got your 4 core skills: strength, agility, intelligence, and it's charisma. It's charisma. It's not charm, it's charisma. And they're set by your choices in character creation. Now, they can go up quite high, but for example, the Peanuts' strength is 1, her agility is 2, her intelligence is 4, and her charisma is 2. And again, they're chosen by your origin stories and all this blah, 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 blah. And what will happen is Lands of Evershade it's a narrative with dice check gates that you have to get through. And so those 4 stats are really cleverly linked to all the checks. So for example, if you're jumping out a window, well, you need agility. If you're kicking down a door, you need strength. If you're trying to decipher some glyphs on a wall, you need intelligence. If you're trying to talk your way through a checkpoint, you need charisma. And so the way it works is this. It'll come to a point, it'll pause, and it will say STR 8. It's a strength 8 check. Well, you look at your board. Well, the Peanut has 1 strength die. She has 1 strength, which means she rolls 1 die. That's what it means. If you have a level 4, for example, her intelligence is 4. If it's an intelligence check, she will roll 4 dice. So if it pauses, it says STR 8. It means you have to roll the dice and you have to get an 8. And some checks will say STR 3 times 8. You've got to get 3 8s. Like, it's a really big one. So, if you've just got to get 8, that means the Peanut looks down, she's got 1 strength die. She's like, oh shit, well, she grabs that die, and she rolls it. Now there's another layer. Almost every check will have some keywords attached to it, right? So if you're playing a physically large character, like one of the Argrim or the orc character, I can't remember what it's called right now, you will have large as one of your keywords, and it might say STR8 +1 for large. So if you're large, you get an extra die for a strength check. So you roll 2 dice. If you have a friend at the table who is large, they can also commit a die to help you. No cost. It's not a spendable thing. It doesn't cost you an action. If the peanut's rolling on a strength check, I can't add a strength die, but if I match one of the keywords that's listed, I can roll a die to help. So you roll a dice, and if you get an 8, you pass. Okay? Now, if it says you need to get 3 8s, there might be, it might say, well, you need 3 8s. If the peanut only has 1 strength, and we don't mention any keywords, getting 3 8s is impossible. Now, if you roll a crit, which is basically a 12, it counts as 2 successes. So if you roll 1 die, you can technically get 2 successes. You have a 1 in 12 chance. But getting 3 8s on 1 die is impossible. So you get to there and then you roll, and you roll anyway. Because if you roll a crit fail, if you roll a 1, you get a fate, which is a little glass bead. And fates have special powers for you. You can spend them. They're currency. We'll come around to that. Hopefully we'll come around to that. So you roll. And rolls are easy, and they're quick, and they're intuitive. You want to kick a door down, it's an STR8, and if you're large, you get a +1. Off you go. You roll the dice. You pass, you go to a certain passage. If you fail, if you have fate, if you have these little these little sparkly glass beads, you can spend 1, and you can re-roll. You can re-roll as many dice as you want. So if you only want to roll 1 because you need 1 more success, you can do it. If you want to roll them all, you can. So you spend a fate, you can re-roll. And it's quick because you get to the passage. It's telling you we want you to roll a charisma check. It's a charisma check, and you need 3 6s. So if you can't get 3 6s, there might be a partial fail response. So if you, for example, if it says you need you need 2 strength 8s and you roll 1 strength 8, it's like, well, you kick the door partway down, some people come running. For example, this is not a real thing. There's no spoilers. But if you have a total fail, something else will happen. Now, the good news is a total fail, if you have a total fail, like no successes, you also get a fate. And because these little fates can be spent for a number of different things in the game, not just re-rolling. And it's kind of like, well, you've had bad luck. The fates are balancing things out. Here's some good luck that you'll have in future that you can use at your whim and at your discretion. And it's not a catch-up mechanic. It's balancing the scales. It's the karmic balance. And it's absolutely splendid. So you're rolling. It's checks. It's checks, it's checks, it's checks. Combat is checks. You're rolling checks, not just, you're rolling against a number that's on the card for the baddie. The baddie might have a 6. If you're rolling a ranged attack, you're rolling your agility dice, you got to get 6 to hit him. And then your weapon card will tell you what you do. It's very, very intuitive. So, that's your checks. Your checks are tied to your 4 main stats. There's a wonderful system of boons, and you get boons through a number of different ways. You can get boons through narrative. You can get boons during the camp phase by going and resting with the healer, and they give you boons. And boons are basically a one-off spend. It might say +1 strength, and once you can spend that, and it gives you an extra strength die for a check or an extra strength for a narrative bit. When I say this is intuitive, guys, it is the best possible word for it. So that's how the dice work, and you are rolling dice all the time. But not to the point where it's tedious, because every dice check is attached to a narrative success or consequence that you actually care about. It's not just, well, roll some more dice. I didn't roll a 6. I was rolling agility dice. Well, who's got the best agility? Who's the most agile at the table? You are. Well, you do this check. And so as a cooperative game, you've got agency, you've got choice, and you've got shared responsibility for wins and losses. And you've got the ability to help each other with each roll if you happen to have the right keywords. So that's how the dice checks work. They're fast, they're smart, they're really clear, and they're really clean. And, if you're rolling an intelligence check and you fail, then there's some table talk about how dumb you are, that you can't work out a book that's in your own language. I mean, this is an RPG after all. So that's the dice checks. That's Fate. Now, Fate has another benefit. When you're in combat, you have this panel filled with action cards. And if you ever play Gloomhaven, they look a little bit like that. There's a clear description. There's, the things you do on it. There's a little map of squares so you know which squares the card affects. And when you use the card, you flip it over. Once per round, you can use your card. So on your turn, there are some cards you can use, and there's some cards you can use when it's not your turn, when someone else is going. There's support cards. And, for example, your dodge card can only be used once per round. If you get attacked twice, you can only dodge one of those attacks, which makes thematic sense. I'm not a fucking dodge machine. So you flip your cards over, and some of these cards can be refreshed by spending Fate. So depending on the power of the card, the back of the card will say, spend 1 Fate to refresh this card. So if you need to dodge twice in your turn, you can, so long as you've got some Fate on your board to spend. It is such a simple system that delivers such a thematic gameplay, both through the narrative and the combat. So let's talk about combat, because the combat is really cool and clever. All of the maps and all of the sheets, they are hidden in these boxes, and the boxes have the sheets are the size of the box. They're like a big 35 centimeter square, and the sheets are in order, and there's a cover sheet on there. It covers up the secrets, so there are no spoilers. So if you're going into a combat, it might say, pull sheet 3 from the box. What you do is you just take the sheets out and you slide them up the back till you see 3, so you don't see anything else. You take the sheet out you need and you lay it down. And it might be a dungeon, it might be an alleyway, it might be, I don't know. I've only played a couple of these. And then there's very clear setup steps, much like in Gloomhaven or Jaws of the Lion. It will say, get these baddies out, put them in these starting spaces. This is where your starting guys go. The individual rules for the battle are on the sheet itself, and they're super clear. It's not like, well, what the hell does that mean? They're super clear. There might be something in the battlefield that you can use in the battle as a unique sort of thing. We've seen a couple of those, and it's super clear how to do that. And you start. So you've got your creatures and or bad guys all lined up in a row, and they're going to activate left to right. And the game tells you what order to set them up in. Each of them has a deck that you pull from an activation deck. There's a deck of 50, 60 cards, and it'll say, this character gets card 2, card 9, card 29, and you shuffle them up. And this character gets card 1, card 6, card 33, and you shuffle them up. And in that way, the decks are multi-use, and there are different decks for different adventures. And then you set yourself up, and you put yourselves out, and your pets out, and you're ready to go. And then you've got a bag of chips that you have populated. It has said put 3 black chips, 3 white chips, and 3 double-sided chips in, for example. And so for initiative, there's no looking at numbers anymore. You are simply drawing a chip out of the bag. And I'm going to bet that there are some powers later in the game that let you fuck with that bag so that you can fiddle with it and bag build it just a little bit in your benefit. I'd be shocked if there weren't. So if I pull a black chip out of the bag guys are acting, and you activate the first bad guy on the left of the row, and they will activate. You draw the card off the top of the deck. You do what it says. The card tells you exactly what he does. Move 2 towards the nearest person. You're going to attack them for 1 damage per player, which is 4. Off you go. And then you've got to look at your board for it. You have to mitigate it. There's no rolling dice to see if they hit. You will be rolling dice to see if you dodge, but it's going to hit you for whatever it says. And then it might say, after that, run away 3 spaces towards the nearest cover point. The card tells you exactly what it's doing. It is so easy to run, and it's almost like each card is its own little narrative. And then if we draw a white chip, well, we get to go, and we get to decide which of us is going. And when we go, we get to activate our pets either before or after us. Our pets have these great big tarot card. When you activate the card, you flip the card because the pet has 2 different actions. And they are not even remotely the same between them. And they might not even be the same type of action. My pet is a sentient pot of stew. It's a goulash that's been possessed, and in order to make it happy, you got to throw gold in it and food in it, and it digests it, and it evolves. That's not really a spoiler, because the first thing you're going to do in character creation is learn about Putty. Yeah, his name's Putty. Putty the pot of stew. So it's not really a spoiler, guys, because you're going to meet him right away. The Peanut has this little mini griffin type one that's a little bit more aggressive. And so you can activate your pet before you or after you. In any order, right? You can go, well, I'm going to go, then my pet, or I can see, and then basically you follow the instructions on the pet card. It'll tell you what the pet will do in its turn. Then you flip it over. There's a different action on the back. And when you do that action, next turn, it will flip over again. And you go. And you decide, you look at your board, and you go, well, I've got a bow, I've got a ranged attack, I need my agility dice. This bad guy is a level 7 on his card. I need to roll 7 or higher to hit him. Well, I'm going to use my agility dice and roll for my bow because I've got lots of agility. I've got 4 agility. And off you go. I got 4 7s. That could be 4 hits. It depends what other things your weapons do. It could be more. 4 damage. Could be more. Could be less. There's little mitigators. So easy. Combat is so freaking easy. There's a very simple cover mechanic. I won't be able to do it justice here. But basically the combat board is a grid. And if you are standing against a line of cover, anyone who is on the other side of that line across the whole grid is a -2 hits when they try and hit you. It's that simple. You don't have to have -2 to hit anyone else, but if you are standing against a barrier, and that barrier, if you were to extend its line out across the whole battlefield, would create a natural barrier, it's a -2. It's like the shield. Some characters have shields that acts as cover. Creatures also have weaknesses. They have weaknesses and resistances, and it's on their card. It says weak to fire. If you hit it with fire, you get +2. It says resistant to fire. If you hit it with fire, it's It's so easy. It's so easy because the cards in the game tell you what happens when you take your turn. Honestly, this is so fucking good. Now, on your board as well, you've got your inventory laid out. These player boards are magnificent. You got your inventory laid out. On the far left, you've got things that you're basically holding. They could be weapons or torches or whatever the case is. Your middle one is multi-use, and your right one is small equipment. Some equipment has persistent benefits. So some equipment adds new keywords, right? They add new keywords to your board, and they will give you benefits both in battle or in narratives. And some of them have a one-use bonus. So like if you've got a potion, it says +4 health. During your turn, you take that potion out, and you get +4 health, and you throw it back in your little backpack. Okay, you can't get it back until you have a camp session. Every time you camp, you can re-equip. Drinking a potion doesn't expend it permanently. Nothing in the game is single use. That's the golden rule. Is there might be some stuff that overrides it later, but nothing in the game is single use or lost forever. If you drink your potion, you get your 4 health. You throw your potion token back in the pouch, and when you go back to a camp, you can rearm yourself. And it's like you go and you refill the potion, you hang it back on your belt so it's ready for battle. Combat is a delight, and it's puzzly, and it's a game of attrition, obviously, but it's genuinely fun because you can do some wild stuff because your board is made up of 20 unique choices that you've made, and so it's a delight. It's a delight. That's combat. So in between all that, combats. Narrative choices, there are different ways you gain experience. You've got an experience track on the far right, and there are block tokens in it when you first start the game. For example, it says 0, 1, and 2, and then from 3 upwards has a blocking token in it. So every time you get experience, you move your little tracker up, and as soon as you get to the top, you take one of the little blocking tokens out. It increases the numbers on the track by 1, and you reset the track. That gives you basically a level up token. So you've got to climb the track, and every time you climb the track, it resets, and the track gets 1 dot larger, just like it would be in an RPG. The gaps between experiential bumps are, getting longer and longer. And then you can spend that later. There's a phase where you can spend that. And I'm going to jump ahead. I was going to talk about camp later. But in between, so at the end of a day, for example, if you're in a travel phase, you're traveling overland, at the end of every day or long travel, you've got a camp. So out comes a camp card. There are 9 sections in the camp, and the camp is in this beautiful sleeve. It's a clear sleeve, and there are cards you can slot into each of the sections of the camp to customize it. And there are 9 different slots, and different types of things go into those 9 slots. And when you have a camp phase, you put your little miniature out. You go, well, I'm going to go to the campfire. You go to the campfire, and the campfire does a certain thing. Okay? Or you decide I'm going to go see the healer, and the healer will give you a boon token, which gives you a +1 of your choice. There's so many things that can happen. And even just the camp is interesting. And camp is where you can re-equip. So if you've drunk your potion, you can re-equip it. Camp is where you level up. So when you level up, you take your token, and you have 3 tracks on your player board. They're little zigzag tracks, and you pop the token in. You've got to start at the 1 if you want to start down a path. And each character profession you choose has 3 different paths. And you have a very clear card, and it says if you're going to choose this path, you go get these 2 cards out of the box, and you get to pick one of them. It doesn't even lock you into a single. There are so many permutations you can throw on your character. Right? So many. We're just getting started. When you level up, you pop your token and it goes, hey, you want to level up this pathway? It's just like a skill tree, a Skyrim-style skill tree. You go down, you go there, all of a sudden you've unlocked dual wield, for example. I don't know if there's dual wield in this game. I fucking hope so. So camp is great. Camp isn't just all right, we're at camp. You only get to do one thing at camp. So if you've got an injury on your board, you might want to go rest and purge that injury. If you've got terror on your board, terror's bad. The terror happens when you make decisions you don't want to make. Okay, so they can happen outside of battle in narrative. They can happen inside of battle. You might have an action card on in your set that is really powerful, but every time you use that action, you gain a terror. Okay? You have 4 slots for terror. If all 4 get filled, you have to roll on the terror table, and something really fucking bad happens. Now, typically, a little bit of terror goes away, but something bad happens. Those 4 slots are the same 4 slots where you store your boons, where you get your +1s for rolls and such. So if you are too terrified, you can't take a boon. You're scared shitless. You can't accept a boon. So you go to camp, and you're like, well, I've got 2 terror and a permanent injury. I'd really like to go and get a boon. But if I get a boon, oh my god, I've still got all this terror. So you get to choose one thing at camp. One thing. And I think that is so smart, because instead of camp being a tedious thing where you go round and round the table, well, now I'm going to heal, well, now I'm going to go here, now I'm going to go, because your pets are at camp, you can do certain things to level up your pets. You get to do one thing. So you end up really looking forward to the next camp, because there's always 3 things you want to bloody do at camp. Tasty, so tasty. So let's talk about the narrative. I'm trying not to jump all over the place. Let's talk about the narrative. The narrative is exquisitely written, and the app is all narrated. And the woman who's doing the narration is expressive and engaging. And there are moments where the Peanut and I have had our hands on the table, been leaning forward, been holding our breath to find out what's happened next. This is a co-op game. The Peanut and I, our characters are diametrically opposed from an ethics point of view. Hers is innately good. Mine's a light-fingered asshole, right? And so what happens is you have a decision token. If you can't agree, whoever has the decision token gets to make the choice. You know, and we're playing along, and the Peanut's like, I don't think we're ever going to disagree. And I'm like, I don't know. You want to go get that shiny stuff over there? Somebody could die. And all of a sudden she's like, what? That's horrible. I'm like, look, but shiny stuff. And she's like, you're a horrible person. So if you can't agree, you've got the decision token. Whoever has the decision token can play that token to make the decision they want without everyone's agreement. However, that token immediately gets passed clockwise around the table. Now, it's just the Peanut and I, so I make a decision that she doesn't agree with. Well, she gets the token for next time. She can hold on to that for as long as she likes. She could just hold on to it and make sure that... but the thing is, if I disagree with her, and she's like, well, no, we're doing this, well, then I get the token back. It's a really excellent little mechanic. So you've got that. And the narrative is fantastic. In the narrative, you've got this beautiful large pillar runs down the middle of the table with all these slots in it, A to Z, and it holds 2 story sheets, which are basically maps, one on the left, one on the right. And it could be the camp sheet, it could be the overland map, it could be a dungeon. So you always have an overview of 2 different parts of the game. And down the middle, when you make certain decisions, it will say, pop a token in H. And that's how it tracks that you made a certain decision. And later on, if you're using the book, if you like to use the book, not the app, it'll say, do you have H? And if you don't have H, you go to one passage. And if you do have H, you have a choice of other passages. Very, very simple. Very choose your own adventure. Very easy to use. And The choices are real. Very mild spoiler. Go ahead, 60 seconds if you don't want it. Like we're in this position where we're carrying someone cross country to help get them healed, and it's revealed that they're a powerful character. And one of the choices pops up. It says, "Would you like to murder her in your sleep?" And the Peanut went, "What?" And it did say there you can't use the decision token. It had to be unanimous, but you could murder her in your sleep. Totally change the narrative. Some fucking wild would happen, guaranteed. This is a main character, but it gives you the choice to murder her in her sleep instead of this whole adventure is taking her to get her healed. It's like, well, no, we might just slit her throat while she's sleeping. We might do that. So, how's it going with the Peanut? The Peanut turns 11. The Peanut plays a lot of games. She does not play heavy Euros yet and that sort of stuff, but she does play some stuff that's quite complex. She's at a point now where when a challenge comes up or a dice check, she can absolutely interpret that check. She can look at it and go, right, it's an agility check. You got better agility. I've got the keyword smurfling. There's no smurflings. This is what it means. You're rolling 3. I'm going to roll 1 to help. Off you go, Daddy-O. And we roll. That's great. She knows how you win a roll. She knows how to use fate. She knows how to hoard fate. She gets caught up a bit in divinum rolls. Now, divinum is the magic in Evershade, and it's a different colored die. And the divinum dies are D4s. They're the full D&D set up to D20s. Now, the more magical characters in your player board, you get a little token. The more magical characters will have a higher sided die. So, for example, I'm rolling a D6 for divinum checks. The Peanut's rolling a D4. It's the potato of D&D dice. You have different ways to upgrade your dice through the game, but if some checks will say you're rolling an intelligence check with divinum, and you're basically using your innate magical power to influence the check. And so the check instead will say, well, it's intelligence check 6, and if your divinum is over 4, then something extra happens. And so she still needs, we need a little teamwork to get through divinum rolls, but most of the other checks, she's on it. She gets combat. The cover system still is a little bit of, well, the line's there, hun, so it's cover. This is how it works. But it's intuitive. And I'll tell you what, she's asking to play it. She's like, when can we do it? When can we play some more? It's a co-op game. So having to talk through divinum dice rolls is, it's not a thing. All that's to say, where does this sit? I'm just going to say it. This isn't a board game. Okay, okay, you want to have a fight about it? Sure, let's have a fight about it. But this is, Lands of Evershade is experiential. This is D&D a board game? If it is in your world, great. I don't think D&D is a board game, right? It's not. For me, a board game is something that you sit down, there's an absolutely defined set of rules, you start the game, you play the game, there's a winner. It might be a co-op game, you either win or lose. I mean, that sounds a lot like Lands of Evershade. How do I quantify this? I struggle with thinking of things like Agamonia, Isis Vanguard, Oathsworn, and Trespass as board games. I know they are. They're on Board Game Geek, so they're a fucking board game, right, James? Right? This is experiential. It feels real and visceral. It's intuitive. We don't need to flip through the rulebook constantly, and we just get to live in that world and make tense, meaningful decisions together. We're in Chapter 3 of the first adventure, and I can tell you, the branching storyline that we've seen means that we've only seen a tiny fraction of what there is. I think you could probably play the same adventure 4, 5, 6 times and have vastly different experiences. The keyword system means you're seeing deeply contextual stories that are meaningful to your choices and your characters. And the decision token makes for great negotiations and table banter. The table presence is exquisite. It is exquisite. I'm just sitting here looking at it while I record, guys, because I've got my recording set up perched on the corner of the table because I've just nudged Lands of Evershade back a little bit. The thing that gets me most about this game is that the Peanut asks to play just about every day, right? For me, in summary, this isn't just a 10 out of 10. This is so far. It's an absolutely perfect example of how to make a game that is impactful, memorable, and easy to play. We haven't used the save system yet, so we'll see on that. I'm thinking we're going to finish this first adventure, save our characters for the next level of adventure, and come back to it after Birthday Party Shenanigans this week. Yeah, Remember, OMC crew, this has not been a review. Also, 10 out of 10. Anyway, that has been OMC's very first game spotlight. Thank you for joining me. If you stayed through that, you can reach me on all the socials by searching One Man Clapping. You can send me an email at wonmanclapping@gmail.com. You can subscribe to Guild 4426 on BGG and join the chat there. Coming up this month, I have another very special guest coming. I think we're having a chat on the 24th. Very much looking forward to that interview in the next couple of weeks. Super Trooper has put together a top 50 series with Project Down the Cracker, and looking forward to bringing that to you as well. Thank you as always for your time and your patience. Your time is precious, and the fact that you chose to waste an hour of it listening to how I spend my time is always humbling. And until next time, get your game on. Even if you got to play with yourself. If you got to play with yourself, play something memorable. Peace out, mofos.
Locked in the bunker, shadow shade. One man clapping secrets away. Board games living, dice they break. Echoes pound and hearts they quake. In the bunker, board games rolling. One man clapping, stories growing. Hard rock thunder, speakers blowing. Clapping loud, the unknown sound.